Isaac represents the second Adam. That was Jesus, who came along 4,000 years down the way. 4,000 years, long time. People were tired of waiting, just like Abraham and Sarah were tired of waiting. See? But God makes His promises. Most of them we're still waiting for, as we'll see in a few moments on the screen. Ishmael, just as predicted in this book, would become father of nations. He would have children aplenty, but they would be wild as Butch. That's what it says. He'll be a wild man. Ishmael has been carrying a grudge for 3,500 years. He hates Isaac's lineage. It's not just, I'm angry, I'm going to kill you. And God has sworn that the land, the real estate, is going to go to the Isaacites. So about 690, 700 AD, Muhammad comes along. He's exposed to the Jewish Old Testament Bible. He's exposed to the story of Abraham and Ishmael and Isaac and all of this thing. And Muhammad decides that he's going to revise history. We call this revisionism. And so he writes a holy book of his own. We call it the Quran. They call it the Quran. And what Muhammad did was go through the Old Testament part of this book, and he just rewrote it to fit Ishmael. So when we come to the story in Genesis of Abraham taking Isaac up on the mountain to offer him, in the Quran, Muhammad says that was Ishmael that Abraham took up on the mountain. You understand what's going on here? The story is rewritten in the Quran so that they own everything. They get everything. But the book doesn't agree. This book doesn't agree. I often tell people this is a Jewish book. It's written by Jews, to Jews, for Jews, and about Jews. And all the prophecies in this book, all the predictions in this book, focus on this little piece of real estate and Jerusalem in particular. This is why when you come to the time of the end, prophets of the Old Testament say, this is God speaking through the prophet, the days are coming when I will make Jerusalem a cup of trembling in the hands of the nations. See. Crisis number one. It has to involve these protagonists and this little piece of real estate. So this guy Ahmadinejad, as soon as he comes into office in Iran, what does he say? I'm announcing to the whole world, we're going to drive Israel into the sea. There will be no more Israel. Well, if you know the prophecies that are in this book, that's an uh-oh moment. See? Now, if you'll let me erase just this little corner right here, we'll do some things. I'm trying to bring you to this and money. Here's the money. These guys own what everybody wants. The disciples came to Jesus, and they were up on the Mount of Olives, and they're looking down over the temple and over Jerusalem, and they swell with Jewish pride, see the great stones of the temple. See. And it was a beautiful edifice. It was not equal to the first temple that Solomon built, but it was still glorious to behold. And some of the stones there were actually huge many-ton blocks of marble that Caesar himself in Rome sent over there to adorn this temple. It was no small thing. See the great stones of the temple, and Jesus kind of blew them away, and he said, I'm telling you, there's a day coming, there will not be one stone that you're looking at still standing on top of another. Wow, they said, this is the end of the world. And so they asked Jesus point blank, tell us what will be the sign of your coming into the end of the world. And so he says, well, one of the things that you can look for is nation shall rise against nation and kingdom against kingdom. Now, why wouldn't you just say nation against nation? Why would you say kingdom against kingdom? Well, if you spin the globe, this is where you go on the big round ball where you have nations and kingdoms. For example, this is a kingdom. Right. So this is a kingdom. This is a kingdom. We can go around the Persian Gulf over here, 2 or 3 more kingdoms, which means these people are living in the dark ages, right? Think it through. So when they said, we want to know what the end of the world is going to be like and how can we recognize it, well, you got to spin the globe and find a place where there are some kingdoms and find some nations. And then Jesus said, this little piece of real estate right here is going to come into the spotlight and you're going to be hated of all nations. We're going to come to that by and by. That's in crisis number 2. See? Well, this is the crossroads and has been the crossroads of history. So without, bothering to read all of the verses, I'm going to take you over into Revelation 17. Now, John is given a vision. He's the last living disciple, apostle. He's given a vision of the time of the end, and this scarlet-colored beast, and this woman riding the beast, and the kings of the earth, etc., etc. And these powers, these horns on this beast, the angel in the vision says to John, are 7 kings. And I'm going to show you a mystery, the angel says. These are 7 kings. 5 are fallen. 1 is. 1 is yet to come. And the 8th, he's of the 7. Wow. I'll agree it's a mystery, but I sure don't get it. You have to wrestle with a lot of history and a lot of prophecy. You have to look at this a long time. But then you go back. So 5 are fallen. Tell me when Israel became a nation. Come on. No. I'm not talking about modern Israel. I'm talking about Israel as a people. Tell me in the Bible where Israel began. It's called the Exodus. And who was the superpower of the day? Egypt. Egypt. Did the pharaohs in Egypt try to do away with the Israelites? Oh, absolutely. Moses survived because his mother was instructed to put him in a little basket and put him out on the river and hide him in the bulrushes. See? No. Kill all the male children. If you understand that it was through Israel that Messiah was to come, this was a satanic attempt to defeat God's purpose in the sending of Messiah. Moses was on more than one instance a type of Christ, Messiah, to come. Attempt number 1 to do away with Israel. Who came next? Assyria. If you're not well acquainted with this part of history, you may remember a Hebrew king by the name of Hezekiah. Isaiah was the resident prophet of the day. And Assyria was the superpower of the day. Egypt was diminishing in power. Assyria was on the rise. And Assyria was on the way down. Assyria was on the way down to Egypt to make sure there were no second runners up for number one, okay? And they have to pass through this little piece of real estate. And of course, they beat the Jews up. You've heard of the 10 lost tribes? It was the Assyrians that took them away. And they finally showed up with the last 2 tribes down there where Hezekiah was king and Jerusalem was still the capital city of the 2 little tribes, Benjamin and Judah down there. And spokesman from Assyria said, hey, we're going to take you away too. And then they went too far and said, your God's not going to save you. And God said to Isaiah, come in, let's have a talk. Go tell Hezekiah, I'm in charge now. And the Assyrians give way. Number 1. Number 2, who's next? The Babylonians come along. Nebuchadnezzar is first the general, and then he becomes the king of Babylon. He destroys Solomon's temple. He destroys Jerusalem. And he, in 3 different captivities, he's taking away the residents of the land. 1, 2, 3. After that, the Medes and the Persians. Well, they were friendly at first because the Jews were still in captivity in Babylon, and Cyrus came along. There was some, but do you remember the story of Esther in the Bible? And Ahasuerus? Do you remember what happened in that day, in that time? There was a fellow by the name of Haman. And Haman hated the Jews. Well, what's the big deal? Haman said, I'm important. And when I ride through the gate, everyone bows down. And there's a guy who didn't bow down. What was his name? Mordecai. And Haman says to his charioteer and all the guys around him, he says, who's that? I mean, when everybody's down and you're up, you kind of stick out, Who's that? That's Mordecai. Why didn't he bow down? Because he keeps other laws than ours. That's an uh-oh moment right there. Haman finally connived and worked things around until he had a decree that at a certain day, who would be put to death? Then comes Alexander and company. And it's always this little piece of real estate. Always. The Greeks not only took possession of the real estate, but they've got, 100 gods, and they're going to Hellenize. It's called Hellenization. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 are fallen. And 1 is in John's day. Who was that? Come on. Rome. Babylon destroyed the first temple. Rome destroyed the second temple. Babylon took them away in captivity. Rome took them away in captivity. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But there are 7 kings. Now that 7th one, when he comes, he will be in power just a little season, it says. Just a little while. Who would you put there? Don't say Ahmadinejad.
Yeah.
Did Hitler try to do away with the Jews? Did he try to do away with all the Jews? Do you know that just before he took his own life, Hitler said, "The day is coming when they will thank me because I got rid of the Jews for them." What's all this business of hate the Jews, hate the Jews, hate the Jews, hate the Jews? What's this all about? I want to look at the prophecy and I want to try and understand what's going on here. And I want to try and get to, quotes, the New World Order and what this economic business is all about, because it's predicted in the prophecies of Daniel and I believe Revelation. Now what did I do with my, here it is. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and we can say 7. I believe Islam is, because in the Second World War as well as the First World War, Islam was friendly with Germany. And so these two are not unrelated, and this is why Ahmadinejad can pipe up and say there was no Holocaust. See, in defense. Now there's an 8th. There's an 8th. And the 8th is not going to be like any other nation out there. It's not going to be as the other nations, it says in prophecy. This one is different than all the others. And this prophetically is referred to as the beast system. The beast system. And once again, what we discover, I think, I discover in the prophecies, is that we're going to start with a new world order on the way to a one world order. And this is referred to as a beast. And it has multiple heads, and it has multiple horns. And these symbols mean something, represent something. And it's going to be up to you and me and whoever else out there to try and sort out who some of these beasts and horns might represent. This is simply to be in your hands so that you have some of the visuals of the animals, the beasts, the heads, the horns, the wings, the whatever that may be represented here. And what I've done in this little brochure, I call it the prophecy brochure, what I've done is take one chapter from the book of Daniel, and we're going to see why in a few moments. We need to look there, and one full chapter, and then half of a second chapter. And this is yours to take home and read and just check it out for yourselves. These symbols belong to a certain period of time in history. And I'm acquainted with a lot of people who want to apply these symbols, these powers. Did you get one for yourself? All right. Who apply these to history past. But you see, there's a qualifier. And it's right there at the top of the page. In the closing chapter of the book of Daniel, the instruction from the angel to Daniel in his vision is, Daniel, shut up the words, close or seal the book, even until the time of the end. Yeah. And so I try to say to people in all sincerity, Alexander the Great won't work, guys. Alexander the Great is 330 BC, and that's not the time of the end. So we're looking for some powers on the planet at, quotes, this time that's being represented here that could be represented by, for example, a lion with eagle's wings, or a bear, or a leopard with 4 heads and 4 wings, and then finally there's this terrible beast with 10 horns, this nondescript beast with 10 horns, and afterward this little horn that's going to come up. So I want to say something here that, please, is not intended to offend anyone. I believe that when we're out of here and on the other side, there will be lots of Muslims loved by God, saved by God. I believe that. I believe there will be lots of Jews. All right? And I believe there will be lots of Catholic Christians and Methodist Christians and on and on and on and on and on. Jesus didn't say, you know, I came to give my life for only the folks I like. I like them all. I love them all. I'm laying down my life for the world. God says I'm giving my son for the world. So please try to understand what I'm saying, what I'm going to say here. The difficulty is these people all believe that they are destined to not only rule the world, but sit here. And what we have in New Testament Bible is a description of a time that will come, the New Testament writers say, when there will be a power who will claim to represent Christ, claim to represent God. Go beyond that. Claim to be God. Claim to be Christ. I could have come here with 40, 50, 60 quotations from Catholic papal literature, their own writings, their own statements, saying that the Pope is God. The Pope is Jesus Christ himself. This is why when the Protestant Reformation was beginning, people like Martin Luther and Huss and Jerome and Zwingli and all of these reformers that were coming along, you must understand, we must understand, they were Catholics. But they became exposed to this, which says, call no man father. It's not talking about an earthly father, it's talking about Holy Father. Call no man father. And they began to see statements where Peter, someone came and fell down in front of Peter to worship him, it says, and Peter says, get up, I'm a man. All of that changed over time. And this system became, as the Protestant reformers recognized, quotes, the Antichrist power. Doing all the things that this book says Antichrist will do and will yet perform. There are evil forces that work through all of us. Will you agree to that? Will you agree that none of us is righteous and none of us is pure? And you know, evil forces work. We wrestle not, it says here, against flesh and blood, but against. Now, because people cannot see these evil forces that are working in their lives and in their minds and through nations and so forth, they cannot see any evil here. I mean, these folks see evil there. But if you're here, you don't see evil. You see, we're representing God. And the same here, and the same here. What will happen prophetically at the end is that there is one of these three that is going to deceive the other two. Pull the wool over their eyes with nice, pleasing words of let's have fellowship, let's be